content of this channel is for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification button. And please, feel free to share the video. Thank you. What's happening, everybody? I'm GG, man. You tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. It's the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chases. And before I get things started, I want to give a shout out to all the members of the Green Gorilla channel, expeditiously. I want to give a shout out to Mr. Lou Meth, Michael Ross, Nelso, Apex Prowler, Kareen Henry, Doc LaRock, Julius Ferguson, B. Hillfire, J. Charles, Mark Holt, Lee Ways, Jeffrey Speed, The Nameless Protagonist, The Face, Rais Muajid, Mark Swift, Show Me, Black Dog, Odd Khaled, Craig, Raphael Brown, Omni Americana, Deanne, Donald Watts, Barry Little, Ryan Jackson, hiphop.catv, Coach DC, The Remedy, Kashif Caldwell, Infamous Chillin', I Am Black Man, Nichita, True King 337, May Rest in Heaven, Force Windu, Mr. Blue Collar, Barnorolas, Kyle J. Sura, I'm Just Jules, The Book of Ronin, Ab Media, Damon Harris, Brian McMurray, TD Hip Hop Media, Drew Main, Shop Talk Live, Mr. Heat, Afro Analyst, Issa Abdul Zahir, Sir Anthony, MLR, Charles Rogers, Universal 178, Black Swerve 404, Rashid Barnes, Aaron Smith, D8, C-Truth the Revelator, Gold Professor, Black Pill Net Stark, Author Unknown, Dr. Tiasan Johnson, Brian Williams, Kalan Jakala, Ricky Dawson, Cedric Bowman, True 7360, BK Born Shaheed, James Washington, Hostile ADEP, Seventh Coast Dojo, W Pure 1, Roguish the Billmonger, I Care, BGS Ibmore, Marvin Battle Jr., Pursuer Prisoner, Taz, Kwaku 217, S. Haywood, Dragon 59, Supreme Ibmore, Adrian Hicks, Jay Bailey, Mr. Michi, Mo Mal, William Ruffin, and Asangwa. Shout out to all y'all, man, for supporting the Green Gorilla channel and helping me to keep things going and growing. Appreciate y'all. Y'all deserve a round of applause. Yeah, thank you for helping me to keep things going on the Green Gorilla channel. I appreciate your help and all the support that you've provided with me. Takes a lot to keep this thing going. A lot of energy, a lot of effort. So I appreciate y'all for that. Thank you. And you know, I usually do a countdown, but I didn't do it today. It is what it is. But you know, I want to get right to the business of why I came here. And let's just get right to it. So, as you know, I did a show, not really a show, but I put a pre-recorded video out there discussing whether or not the women's movement has been a disaster. Okay. And the reason I did this was to try to demonstrate to y'all that the arguments being made in this space and other spaces, they've already been made. These issues have already been addressed and discussed. Now, they may be new to us, but they're not new at all. The ideals, the strategies, the philosophies, the arguments, the counter arguments, they've already been made. So all I wanted to do is to flesh those out and draw your attention to those arguments. And I'll give you a quick recap on what went down in the video that I made. I'll get to the main points, and then I want to react to what follows. So let's just do it, man. And, you know, hopefully I don't incur another copyright strike for doing this, but I don't see a better way to actually do this, man. It just is what it is. So let me just get right into what it is I need to get into so we can get this done. Let's go.
There is a difference. The women's movement has accomplished certain goals encouraged by sensible people, and yet at the same time it is a disaster. The founder of the National Organization of Women, whose idea of a perfect culmination of feminism would be when the commandant of the Citadel announced a school holiday to celebrate her abortion. She used the following sentence, quotes, "Feminism has no happy role and can boast of almost no legislative victories. Its ideology is still, and its spokespersons are bitter."
Kill men now, ask me how. Kill men now, ask me how. Kill men now, ask me how. It was a badge that we had mass made for a meeting.
I mean, we were pretty tough and probably quite alarming. I still have the rage, and I still carry the rage. Rage is absolutely fundamental, not anger, it's not strong enough. It has to be rage.
The successes of the movement, Mr. Chairman, that we conclude that what began as the affirmation of rights became instead the nightmare we now designate as a disaster.
Thank you, Mr. Bobby. Ms. Friedan.
And let me stop there. I want to stop there because if you sit and you think about it, you know, you can say one thing about these women, but one thing you can't say is that they're not organized. You can say a lot about these women, but one thing you can't say is that they're not dedicated. You can say a lot of shit about these women, but they have goals, objectives, and they are organizing and acting in the world in order to bring about what it is that they desire in the world materially. Now, those are the facts. There's nothing you can say to argue against that point. And if you try to make the case that that's not the case, all I'm going to do is say you're tap dancing, you're bullshitting, you're lying, you're deceiving yourself. So you can say whatever it is you want to say about these women, but you don't have a response. What's your response? Because I know one thing, and let me just put this out here and keep it 100 with y'all. The way that men are supposed to behave, right? We're supposed to be rational, right? This is the presupposition, right? Men are rational, women are emotional. Men rational, women emotional. Right? That's what it's supposed to be like, right? I mean, that's what I hear, that's what I've been told. Men are rational and they're ordered. Women are chaotic and emotional. That's what I keep being told. That's what I keep hearing. But I can't fucking tell. Because every time I look around, all I hear is motherfuckers crying and whining and crying and whining and shit. I don't see no action. I don't see any movement. I just don't see it. You can't say that to them. Now, if it is the case that masculinity is predicated upon order, rationality, and chaos is predicated upon emotions, and womanhood is emotional and chaotic, well, shit, the poles have been fucking flipped. The poles are flipped. Now tell me I'm lying. I dare you to tell me I'm lying. Because I'm going to tell you what rationality actually is in this world, especially when it comes to philosophy. This is what rationality is. Rationality is, okay, I think about something and I develop a rational plan of action, a maxim, a rational principle of action, and I act on it. And if I have a certain set of preferences, I act on what I prefer. If you don't do that, you're irrational. That's the textbook definition of irrationality. To have a preference predicated upon a rational principle of action, something you say that you stand on. but then you don't act on it. That is irrationality. That's the textbook definition of what it is. This is just what it is. I didn't make the rules up. All I can do is give you what the rules are. All I can do is say, okay, well, what are the rational principles of action that we have? I thought it was a whole bunch of shit. Like, okay, it's a problem with the gynocracy. Black men need to discuss the problems and work them out. Black men need to work on X, Y, and Z. And we need to bring about something, to change the quality of the content of our lives. So the ordered, rational males in the manosphere, it ain't called the winosphere, it ain't called the bitchosphere, it's not called we need therapy sphere or none of that shit. It's called the manosphere. So I'm assuming, okay, these motherfuckers know this going in. I'm just assuming it. Going in, I'm assuming it. But all I'm seeing is motherfuckers going off on each other. And dog, that is emotional. Don't tell me it's not. Now, I'm not the one who's ever made the case that men aren't emotional. I've never made that case. But I hear guys consistently saying, oh, well, women are emotional and they lead with emotion. Bullshit. Because it's a lot of emotions being led right here. It's leading a lot of shit right here. I don't like that nigga. I don't like what this nigga said. I don't like how this nigga talked. I don't like how this nigga did this. I don't like how that nigga did that. I don't like this nigga. That nigga this, that nigga that. That nigga's, he passive aggressive. This nigga this way, this nigga that way. I can't stand you niggas. I mean, niggas are lamenting about this shit in public view. Lamenting. Crying. Let me literally like, oh man, this nigga keep talking about me. Like, so fucking what? So what, bruh? So fucking what, man? See, this is what I know. This is how you avoid that bullshit. If you got a problem with a man, talk to that man. That's it. All that shit can be resolved. All the problems related to what's going on here would be resolved immediately if men said, okay, I got a problem with this cat. He got a problem with me. I'm about to rap to this man, mano y mano. Not on no public space, but to that man. That's how you get that shit out the air. Because either one or two things gonna happen. You're gonna either resolve it or you're not gonna resolve it and y'all gonna bang or y'all gonna agree to disagree and part ways. Period. That's what's going to end up happening. That's it. There ain't no alternative to the shit. And I've always been the type of guy, man, just because you don't like somebody, I could be best friends with a motherfucker another one of my friends don't like. And I tell them, y'all tripping. And I tell the other motherfucker, dog, I'm not a yes man to you, dog. Just because you don't like this motherfucker don't mean I can't fuck with this dude, man. If I like this nigga, if we kicking it, we cool like that, that's you and him. Y'all issues got to be solved and worked out. I'm not about to bandwagon no other nigga. This ain't no war. Not between brothers. Not between black men for real. Unless it's some gang shit, we talking about something like that. That's a whole different game, man. I'm in a fraternity, dog, where it's dudes that don't like each other here and there. And then motherfuckers get into a fight. There's some rules to this shit. But all that talking, well, I don't even entertain that shit, man. Like, if you don't like this nigga, like, even family members do this shit to each other. Well, this nigga, he was doing that. That's why I don't fuck with him, and this is how he is. Well, bring it to him. Talk to that dude, man. Rap to him. Solve that shit, work it out, man. Resolve that bullshit. I don't want to be a part of that shit. I'm the peacemaker. That's it. Just leave me the fuck alone with that bullshit. I don't want to hear you say shit about no other man. I really don't want to hear it, man. If you got an issue with that dude, man, bring it to that dude. Just it's simple. If a dude say, okay, I got a problem with Gigi, I'm right there. What's the problem, dog? What's the issue? I'm gonna be real with it, because I know I ain't violated nobody. I might have said some shit somebody don't like, but so what? Now think about this. You got men. All I'm trying to do is show you the facts, bruh. You got men in the space. We need to unite, man. We need to be working together on rational principles of action to change our lives. That's what we need to be doing. It's just simple. And thank you, Chip Bud, for the Chip Hood for the donation. But I'm like, come on, man. That's in your feelings, man. Fifis. You can't say motherfuckers in this space ain't in their fifis. That's a lie. Because it takes a lot to get angry at a motherfucker over a long period of time over some shit going on YouTube. These motherfuckers light years ahead of us. They been on game. They have an agenda. They are working their agenda. They're working their agenda in the media. They're working their agenda in the university. They're working their agenda in fucking political bodies. We arguing back and forth. These are the facts, bruh. I just had to get that off my chest, man. Now, I want us to unite. Because they love this shit. They love to see us fighting, bruh. They love to see us disunited, disjointed, going at each other's jugglers. They love this shit. They love to see us fuck each other. It looks like stumbling like the Keystone Capers and shit. Like lemmings just falling off the cliff. They love to see discord. They love to see this shit. They are united. That's a fact. These people are working together to solve their problems. And they have rage against your ass. They mad as hell at you. To the point where they like, kill him now. And we said, fuck it, I don't like this nigga. I thought the goal was to stay on code. I thought we had work to do. That's what I thought. I thought we had business to attend to. I ain't saying you can't have sessions where men, come together and discuss shit, but damn. What next? They don't want us to unite, man. They don't want us to see us do anything to challenge their ideology. They don't want that. They don't want to see it. And unfortunately, we don't want to see it. We don't want to even see the shit. Either it's jealousy, envy, egoism, egotism. What the fuck is it, man? These people are organized, man. They are acting on rational principles of action. And they have objectives, and they are working on fulfilling those objectives so they can meet their goals. This is what they are doing. That's my rant, man. I'm done with the rant. I want to get back to this. But I'm just being honest. And we ain't talking about creating a television show or a YouTube show. We're talking about shit that transcends that. They doing shit in the real world. Manifesting creations in the world. That's what they're doing. So we can do that if we decide to do it. Or we can stay playing high school shit. We can be on some high school shit as grown men, on some high school shit, going back and forth on some egotism about who got the biggest dick, who fucked who girl, who took who shit, who won the game, who the biggest man, top ranking. That's my rant for today, man. But anyway, can't say they ain't organized. So anyway, Bill Buckley had a lot to say to and about, the feminists, about their movement. Okay? And, you know, he comes out with an opening. And the funny thing is, this is another thing that's important for people to acknowledge. At least they were willing to sit and have a discussion about this. In our culture, we don't even have the discussion. The people who, you know, like, are the doctors and the professionals who are black, they don't even have these conversations. They're not fucking even engaging. They refuse to discuss it. Now, this is Bill Buckley's platform, and he invited these women on to talk and to, you know, to engage in a debate. We don't even have that now. This is how you know there is a dearth of honesty, openness, and candidness related to what issues are taking place and transpiring in our communities. Nobody actually gives a damn. Only people care. The only thing they care about is their own agenda. That's it. That's it. That's all. So anyway, man, getting back to the joint, we don't even talk. It's gotten to the point where black people can't even talk to each other respectfully, even though they got differences of opinion. And you don't have to like somebody to do business with somebody. Like, when did that ever become like a part of doing business where I gotta like this dude? I gotta like him. He gotta be in my clique. I want to know if he can do the job. That's what I want to know if I'm fucking with somebody related to some business or getting something accomplished. I ain't got the love kicking it with this dude, drinking beers, watching TV, playing video games with this dude, hanging out in clubs, sitting around playing spades or nothing. I ain't got to do none of that. That's unnecessary. It can be done, but it's not necessary. I want to know if this guy is dependable and reliable when I go to him for business. He could be an asshole. As long as he's the best in town, I'm going to fuck with him. But not us. No, no, no. It ain't about that for us. It's about likability. The cult of personality or some shit. That's us. That's who we are. Now, if I'm wrong about it, you come tell me, mano y mano, be man enough to come to me and tell me where I'm wrong at. Don't come in the fucking space out on YouTube, because you know what they say, like, if you got problems in your house, this is a house. If there's problems in the house, you don't have to go out attacking individuals out in public in the house. If you gonna bang, nigga, bang in the house. Bang in the house, man. I'm done with it, man. So, let me start this shit. So Betty Friedan is going to respond, okay, to Buckley. So you saw what Buckley said. Now it's time to see what Friedan has to say in response.
Betty Friedan will now oppose the motion.
Well, I cannot take the women's movement for equality as a joke. It has been perhaps the most life-affirming, life-opening development of modern democracy. It has been perhaps the most important movement that has changed people's lives for the better, women, men, and children.
Well, let me stop it right there. You see, these women actually believe. Look at how she's speaking. It doesn't, to me, appear that she's, engaged in an act of lying or, like putting on a facade. She really, sincerely, and earnestly believes that she's improving the quality of the lives of women, children, and men. Now, there's another group or a cadre of women who know that they're not working to the interest of men, so they're not going to even try to put that out there. But she believes that she's improving the quality of lives of men. And I'm here to tell you, no, it's not. I'm here to tell you, it's not. But I digress.
Of this last half of the 20th century, I I'm not the godmother. I am sometimes called the mother of the women's movement. My book, The Feminine Mystique, in 1963, broke through the image of women that was absolutely the only image of women in those years after World War II. Women defined only in sexual relation to man, only as wife, mother, sex object, housewife, server of physical needs of husband, children, home, never as a person, defining herself by her own actions in society.
Now look, let me stop. So women were only perceived as having a role connected to a man. They didn't have a life of their own in society. Think about what she's saying here. Now, here's my problem with that. She's only talking about it from her perspective because she's jealous of her husband being able to go out there and get it and earn it. Now, I'm not going to say that there aren't any men who, actually enjoy going to work and laboring. Some men like it. But a lot of men feel like they're obligated to take whatever job they can to put food on the table so they can provide for their families. This whole idea about, well, I want to go out into the world. And do what? See, this society that we live in now didn't always exist where people went out into the marketplace and they made something of themselves. And this idea that like women were the only people subjected to oppression and domination and had to fulfill obligations and roles and connected to duty is self-indulgent to me, is what it is. But that's just my viewpoint on it. You think men are like not obligated to take care of their children and their wives and to make sure that they're provided for and have the things that they need? Especially if there was a culture in which women were not expected to work. So men had to go do the shit. They had to do it. And to say that, all of this was some sort of collusion to work against the interest of women, to me, it's just narcissistic. That's just how I feel about it. I think that's some bullshit. But here's the strange thing. Women still expect for all of the fucking obligations that men once had to still be performed. While they go out in the world and do whatever the fuck it is that they want away from you. Apart from you. Not tethered to you. But you still supposed to be tethered to supporting her ass. That's the problem I have with this. It's a lopsided duty. We got a duty to do all the shit men are traditionally supposed to do, but you have no duty to anything but your damn self. That just don't sound like a fair and a square deal to me. But that's just my opinion.
And this image, fed to us by the mass media, television was beginning then, given new guise for old prejudices by Freudian thought that had hit these shores, bolstered by the return of the GIs from the war, and women, Rosie the Riveter, left the jobs, and they were home making up for lost time in the Depression, in the war, having the children, and war industry needed them as housewives to buy the appliances when they retooled out of war industry. But that image, which was obsolete, which did not enable women to take real control of their lives and use their possibilities in the last half of the 20th century in America, that image was so pervasive that it had blotted out of national memory 150 years of struggle for women's rights that ended with winning the vote the year before I was born. That image was so pervasive that I called it the problem that has no name when I heard from women, and if I was doing a group interview and they said the problem, and they said, well, I'm BJ's wife, I'm Junior and Janie's mommy, I'm going to put her on her diapers and a server of meals, but who am I? And there was no name, although all sorts of things were blamed on women then, all sorts of problems, not getting this kitchen sink clean enough, the husband's shirts ironed enough, the husband's ulcers, the children's bedwetting, her own lack of orgasms, but
her own lack of orgasms, not having the kitchen sink clean, not having the diapers changed. But women don't have any complaints about men at all. Like nothing. None. Zero, zip, zilch. None. I just find that alarming. I don't understand that. I don't get that. Both men and women have duties to each other in the context of a relationship. Period. And yes, a woman is going to have duties to her children. And it may be, if a woman is kept up, cooped up in the house, women need to do shit with each other. That's a problem. Women need to find little cliques where they can do things with each other so that they can have a life outside of the context of being locked in a house. Nobody's saying that a woman deserves to be locked in a house. But be damn sure if a man decides, okay, well, you know what? I'm not obligated to you. I'm not somebody's father. I'm not somebody's husband. I'm not somebody else's X, Y, and Z. See, these women, to me, they're jealous because they weren't able to work. Most people don't want to fucking work anyway. Most people don't want to go to work. It's a necessity. They're obligated to do it. If you won the lottery, you going to work tomorrow. Or you're going to put your money in the bank, have somebody, hire 2 account managers so one can watch the other, hire 2 attorneys so one attorney can watch the other, and let the money make money because the money makes money. Money makes money. If you won the lottery tomorrow, what you going to work? Anyway, man, they act like we just having the greatest time in the world out here working and shit, and they are having the worst kind of life ever because they got to take care of some kids. Now, those are your kids now. They're your children.
For a problem that had to do with woman as a person in society. And we had to break through that feminine mystique. And I feel odd that I was able to do that with some combination of my good Smith education and my training in psychology and my experience as a journalist and my mother's frustration.
Now listen to this. How can she be all the things that she's saying that she is without having a life apart from men? The very expressions that she's using to identify herself belie the narrative that she's putting forward. That's the way I see it. This woman went to college. She went to, I think if I'm not mistaken, she went to Smith College. How can you go to Smith College and consider yourself to be a slave? I just don't get it.
And the fact that I was fired from a newspaper job for being pregnant with my second child. But I really bought that feminine mystique, which I didn't call it that then, because it made women then feel guilty working outside the home as if they were losing their femininity, undermining their husband's masculinity, neglecting the children. So I retreated to the housewife years.
Now, and look, let's just say this. One could argue, yeah, that when women go out into the world and make money and start demanding shit of men, like trying to punk men, yeah, you're becoming more masculine. Yes, that is occurring. We can lie and say it's not, but yes, that's exactly what is occurring. But women still want masculine men. So now you done put yourself in a position to where you're becoming more masculine. You're behaving in the world in a masculine way. But you want a masculine man. Y'all going to clash. You're going to clash.
and secretly, like secret drinking in the morning, freelance for women's magazines because I couldn't quite suppress the itch. But by putting a name to the problem, and by saying women are people, no more, no less, and by figuring out how we had bought into this obsolete mystique, by taking women's experience seriously when it didn't fit the book, I was able, with this little book, it wasn't so little then, to help women take their own experience seriously. And once we moved to the personhood of women, which is what it was all about, then from that followed our claiming of our human and American birthright, equal opportunity in education and jobs, our own voice in the decisions of our destiny, in the decision of society. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Well, in any event, it's not been a disaster. Look at the daughters today who have a whole world open to them that was not open to my generation. Look at the older women today, women in their 50s, 60s, 70s. Their mental health used to decline precipitously every decade after 20, American women, and drastically after 40 compared to men. In my new book, The Fountain of Age, I give the evidence that American women today, because they have more control over their lives, and they have larger, more complex lives, their mental health is as good in their 50s and 60s as younger women in their 20s and 30s, and this improvement has happened with women,
The producer's
but not
mental
with
health
men.
is declining. Thank you very much.
Okay, so, she gets some applause. Because, look, the people are there to see what Betty Friedan has to say. So she's preaching to the choir in this, in this audience. But Bill Buckley, invited her to have the debate. All right. So those are the two big figures. Okay. You got William Buckley or Bill Buckley, and you got Betty Friedan. And then what you have is other people who come in and they're arguing for and against these positions. Okay. So next up is Arianna Huffington. Now, I don't know if you know who Arianna Huffington is, but Arianna Huffington is the woman who founded Huffington Post. Okay. And then you also have Camille Paglia, who's going to argue, against Arianna Huffington. But these arguments are nothing new. They're nothing new. They're not brand new. They may be brand new to us, but they're not new. Let me commence.
I think henceforth we will impose a rule: only one book plug per speech. Arianna Huffington and Camille Paglia, please ascend the podium. And Arianna Huffington has a minute and a half to make an opening remark.
The last time I took part in a firing line debate was 24 years ago at the Cambridge Union. I was speaking on the side of Ken Galbraith against Bill Buckley. And ever since, I have been praying to God to speak on the same side as Bill Buckley. And finally tonight, God has granted me, she has granted me this opportunity. 30 years ago, Betty Friedan launched the women's movement with a feminine mystique at the same time that Lyndon Johnson launched the Great Society. 30 years later, we can look back and say that both the women's movement and the Great Society were spectacular disasters.
Now, notice now, Arianna Huffington is not singing the same tune. It's important for you to understand this, that these people switch up when they get ready. That's what they do. And, their viewpoints, everybody is, entitled to modify their viewpoints over time. I give them that. But it's just crazy, man. Like, the Huffington Post to me is a feminist blog. It is. This is what it is to me. Okay. And that's what it is. Hey, Malak, let me just say this, bro. If you don't like what's going on with the bot, bro, Burn out, dog. I'm here to tell you that. You don't have to stay here, dog. You like this content taking place here, you can burn out, dog. Real talk. I'm just gonna keep it 100. I don't need no disrespect in the space, man. The bot rod is here because I want to keep what's going on in. I don't want guys to be disrespecting people in the chat. So if you don't like it, dog, get the fuck on, man. You can click off. I mean that, bruh. If you don't like it, get the fuck out of here, nigga. I ain't playing with you niggas no more, man. None of you motherfuckers. Stop getting emotional about what the fuck going on my shit. If you want to build, let's build. But you want to talk, nigga, go talk somewhere else. Chat somewhere else, nigga. Fuck on. I'm banning your ass. Get the fuck on out of here, nigga. Go do that shit somewhere else. I ain't playing with you niggas no more, man. You don't like what the fuck going on my channel, dog? You ain't got to be here. Real talk, man. I'm not playing with you niggas no more, man. See, motherfuckers think disrespect is something that you should sit back and take. We say we don't like disrespect, but motherfuckers will come disrespect. Don't disrespect. You won't be disrespected. Period. I'm sick of niggas coming, in this space being disrespectful. You don't come into somebody else's house being disrespectful, man. Period. You don't like what's being said? Get the fuck on, man. You ain't gotta be here. I'm tired of niggas, man. We don't need the CIA or the FBI or nothing. We gonna do the Judas shit to each other. We don't need Judas. We don't need the CIA, the FBI, none of that shit. The DEA, we gonna do it. We gonna do it to ourselves. I'm tired of this shit, man. All this disrespect. You go to somebody's crib, you follow their rules. It's just simple, man. Like this, like you motherfuckers, you probably don't have home training, is what it is. And then many of you guys consider yourselves to be religious, but you have no respect for other men. That's a problem, man. A lot of y'all say a Muslim or Hebrew or Christian, and you disrespect other men consistently. Sometimes you need to listen and stop talking anyway. See, this is the problem we have here, man. If you don't like it here, get the fuck on. It's just simple. It don't take a lot of effort and energy, man. It just doesn't, man. This is unnecessary bullshit. This is the type of bullshit I've been talking about, man. Just stop the bullshit. Cut it out. Stop saying slick shit to other men. See, you motherfuckers ain't gonna, man, one day somebody gonna fuck y'all niggas up, man. Real talk. Cause y'all slick. I guess this space breeds this kind of, or attracts this kind of shit. I just don't understand it, man. I ain't never been to nobody's channel saying slick shit on nobody's chat ever in my life in this space. Never been to anybody's spot saying slick shit. Never have I ever done that. And then run and tell some other people, I don't like this nigga, man. I don't like him, man, because he did this and he did that. That's bitch-made behavior, man. We got to be better than that, man. That's all I'm asking for us to be better than that bullshit. It's frustrating me because I'm seeing something wasted that could be used as something great. And all we doing is being on some high school little boy shit. Can we grow the fuck up? Can we grow up, man? We ain't each other enemy. We're not each other's enemy. These women are in a rage against your ass. But y'all come and y'all start fucking with each other. All y'all do is keep up confusion with each other. It's bullshit, man. When can we grow up and act like men? Men don't start talking slick shit to other men for no reason. Men come in another man's house and they respect his house. That's what real men do. I'm just asking for y'all to be respectful, man. And if you don't like it, get the fuck on. It's just simple. It don't take a lot of energy and effort for this, man. We don't need COINTELPRO, FBI, CIA, DEA. We gonna do it to each other. We'll do it to each other. It just is what it is. But anyway, man, back to the lecture at hand, bruh. So anyway, man, they flip sides when they get ready. They do what they want to when they get ready. Pete.
They maintained the big lie that government, the federal father up in the sky, is going to take care of all social disputes and kiss away every economic boo-boo. They contributed to the breakup of the American family. And they also contributed to the politicization of American life. 30 years later, we look around and divorce rates have tripled. Illegitimacy among teenagers has gone up 400%. Violence against women, rape are worse than ever. So what has happened? What has happened to that marvelous social experiment that so completely failed? What has happened, as some might argue on this side of the aisle, is that somewhere along the way the women's movement went wrong. Well, I'm arguing that the women's movement was born wrong. It was born on the wrong side of the ideological tracks, and it was born on the wrong side of history. It was born on the wrong side of history, as I argued in my first book, The Female Woman, 20 years ago, because it glamorized, it idealized the masculine realm. It idealized what it is like to have power, success, to make it in the world. And therefore, it ignored what today we need more than ever, the feminine realm of soul, spirit, compassion, heart, and empathy. Thank you.
Don't go away. Thank you very much. Ms. Carver, you have a minute and a half to make an opening remark.
Okay, so basically, I think what she says, that a lot of it makes a lot of sense. That the feminist movement is, to me, a whole bunch of women trying to engage men and engage the world like men. Bottom line, that's how I see it. I mean, it just is what it is. They want to behave in the world like men. Maybe they're envious of men. And look, I don't have a problem with women doing whatever they want to do. But damn, the world of men is not the best thing in the world, especially with all the duties associated with it. And the risks associated with it. And all the fucking sacrifice that's associated with it. But all these women, they perceive something that men are doing as something better than what they're doing. And look, there's obligations that men have to their families just as women have to their families. But they're not going to be able to carry out those obligations identically. They're going to take on different forms. Bottom line. It just is what it is. And like CIP H. Bud says, it's not empowerment. It is emulation to a certain extent. Now look, if women want to engage the market, fine. But if you engage the market, no more expectations from men to perform market activities in your behalf. For what? And then here's another thing that I think is screwed up, is that a lot of women, they figure that because they're, like professionals, that success is going to carry over into a relationship. No, those are two different kinds of activity. Two different forms of activities. Your success in school or in a professional setting does not necessarily translate into success in the context of a relationship with somebody else. It takes two different kinds of skills. But right now, the only option, what they've opted for, is the world of men, the world that men created. They want those identities because I guess they felt like men were having so much fun. I guess, it is what it is. So let's keep pushing. So this is Polia's response.
Yes, I'm very honored to be here in the presence of Betty Friedan, who indeed changed history. I'm known as someone who has many deep criticisms of the women's movement, but what I have constantly said is that if we could return to what Betty Friedan was saying at the beginning, we would be on the right track. I was born in 1947 into that horrible, repressive, domestic era of the 1950s that Betty Friedan ended with her great book, The Feminine Mystique. And I feel that my generation of the 60s went through, there were many, many excesses that we...
Now see, at least she's willing to admit the excesses. But we're at a point now where nobody's admitting that there's any excesses at all. In fact, they're trying to push the boundaries even further and further and further. And this is why I'm playing this, because you wouldn't watch it on your own. So I have to walk you through it. These debates are not new. This is old. This is the early 90s, late 80s is when this came out. But here's the thing. We get feminism on steroids because these people are following the people that they claim to be excessive. What we're getting are the talking points of some of the most excessive feminism, the most radical forms of it, is what we're being confronted with. Let me keep pushing.
Committed, but essentially feminism remains one of the great progressive reform movements of the last 200 years. It is analogous to the abolition of slavery, to the...
Whoa. It's a now. See, she's changed her tone, okay? But look, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Men who love their wives don't treat their wives like slaves. The intimate partner relationships between people are different than that between a slave and a master. Period. Period, man. These women act like they were getting their asses whipped because they didn't get the dishes clean. Now, I'm not saying men are not chauvinistic. I think a lot of men are. And men sometimes don't acknowledge that their wives have capacities. Okay, cool. That's cool. Like, Ricky not letting Lucy sing in the band or some shit like that. But come on, man. Like, you know what an intimate relationship is like. If you've ever been in one, it's a give and a take. It ain't just, oh, I'm telling you what to do. You do what I say now. That's not how these things go. Especially if you're in an intimate relationship with somebody, you know that's not how it goes, man. Or maybe it's different for white folks. I don't know. Maybe we do live in a gynocracy or some shit like that. Maybe it is. I don't know. Let me keep pushing.
Abolition of child labor and so on. Just as Mr. Buckley would not want to abolish Catholicism because of the excesses of certain fanatics, so must we not attribute to feminism the excesses of various neurotics and incompetents who have been swept into it underneath the table, as it were. For me, I believe that feminism is about equal opportunity for women and men in society. But I do agree that certain members of the movement have neglected areas outside the social realm. That this is simply part of what we must do to rectify feminism, to bring a kind of narrow little steering thing to bring it back on track. But I remain 100% committed to this movement.
Now she knows that there's some things that are excessive. At least she's admitting that. What do you hear now in black culture where women say, okay, there are some excesses, not miscellaneous women with YouTube channels. I'm talking about members of the academia, women in the press, women on talk television shows. When do you see it? You don't see it. Not anymore. Let me keep pushing.
Which has liberated women. Women will never go back in the closet again.
Thank you. Don't go away. Ariana Huffington will now interrogate Camille Paglia.
Camille, you have argued very eloquently that there are two realms in culture, the Apollonian and the Dionysiac.
Okay, so let me break this down for you. There's two realms, the Apollonian, the Dionysian. I just got through having a conversation about that. The Apollonian is supposed to be the rational, the thinking, the dispassionate part or aspect of the human person, right? And there's a God that embodies those principles. Then you have the Dionysian, okay? The Dionysian is chaos, emotion, hedonism, emotiveness. Those are all associated with Dionysus, okay? So right now, I guess she's going to make the case that everybody is being pushed into Apollonian, aspects of human being. But that's not balance. Everybody can't be that way all the time. And right now, there's an emphasis on Apollo. And women are trying to enter into the Apollonian mysteries. They want to see what it's like. But you can get excessive with that.
The rational and the intuitive, the spiritual, whatever words you want to apply to that. And yet the women's movement has exclusively glorified the rational, the masculine. And whatever the results of that, however glorious they may have been in the past, wouldn't you consider the possibility that right now, as our culture needs more than anything to rediscover the spiritual, the intuitive, the emotional, all qualities that are very identified with the feminine.
Well, Ariana, I totally agree with that, but you see, the women's movement is actually split. There is one part of the movement which glorifies achievement in the social realm, the woman with the attaché case as the ultimate human person. I, too, have great...
Now tell me this ain't black women right now. I'm just being honest. Everything about what they ought to be doing is that. The attaché case. I'm the woman in charge. This is the preference for them for the Apollonian as opposed to the Dionysian. Okay? So just understand that. Okay?
Disagreement with that, but there's another part of the movement, the separatist part, that glorify the goddess and the irrational and the intuitive. So actually, there's a kind of chaos, I think, in the movement for the last 15 years or so. And we need much more dialogue. We need much more discourse
Now notice we need dialogue and discourse. There is no dialogue or discourse being had at the current moment, though. All you get is shaming and guilting. That's what you get. Shaming and guilting. No dialogue, no discourse, no conversation, no mutual understanding. Just, you wrong, we need this, we need more jobs, we need positions, we need to be strong, we're in a rage, rah, rah, rah.
rational kind, but I agree with you. There are serious flaws in the current Western idolatry of the career woman.
But even
there you go. There you go. I've been trying to have conversations about this, and so I think that's the right answer. Yes, sir.
Tonight, as Betty Friedan was giving her opening statement, she idealized work. She idealized the liberation of the woman from home, as though what the woman was liberated into was this glamorous 9-to-5 existence.
That's what I'm saying. I said it before. You liberated to work? That's liberation. I'm liberated to now work. Once all you had to do is stay home, tend to the family. It wasn't that you had to stay in the house. I'm pretty sure most men didn't make their women, or their wives stay in the house. Like, you can't come out. You better not leave the house. But it is a job. Like, women have duties. If a man is out making most of the bread, which is the way it was to some degree for white people, it wasn't that way for black men, because women always had to work. Black women always worked as domestics, secretaries, God knows what else. I ain't gonna even go there, but you get the picture. Black women were already working. White women were bored. They ain't had shit to do, so they were bored. So they didn't create their own worlds and their own forms of activity within the world. All they did was emulate the men and say that they didn't have access to what the men were doing. That's it. Now, if we say something like this, we talk about this, everybody's going to say, well, you're misogynist, you don't like women. No, that's not what it is. We're just like, damn, you are into the masculine right now. And you've been told that this is glamorous. This is what it's supposed to be like. Forget your children. They're important, but not that important. Your career is more important. And career is okay. But most men get careers and earn money so that they can have children and have a legacy. Somebody to pass it on to. They want to have a family. But now, these women don't even want to be part of a family. They perceive family as oppression. And I've said this before. Just peep it, man. It don't take a lot of effort and energy to keep a house clean. The only time it does if you got little young kids and they got shit everywhere. But if you clean your house good, it's already clean. So if somebody come and mess it up, all you got to do is straighten it up. It don't take shit to wipe off a table. I used to serve tables, man. I used to be, like a waiter or a server at not a restaurant, but at a catering service where there would be hundreds and hundreds of people who would come in there. You do the work, you get it done, and then you go to the crib. But if you're at home, you just clean it up, you get it done, and it's done. I just don't understand like the big preoccupation with housework. I've never understood that.
And the idea of women not being as depressed as they were is absolutely pathetic. There are more women on Prozac, there are more women on Valium than there have ever been. They may be less depressed because they're on so many drugs.
Look, man, going to work, trying to compete with men has got to be stressful for women. It's got to be. Trying to show and prove that you're as good as a man has to be stressful. It has to be. There's no way in the world you can't tell me that shit ain't stressful. It's got to be stressful. To try to be the mama and the daddy. To try to be the breadwinner and the nurturer. That's got to be hard to do. Now, I'm not saying if you don't, like, if you have to do it, I get it. But if you choose to do it, under the idea that, liberty is hedonism and just being able to do what you want, that's a very naive idea about what freedom actually is and entails. And I've been trying to tell y'all also that freedom is not just freedom from, or just being able to do whatever you want. It's also freedom in relation to being able to perfect yourself, being able to realize yourself within the context of a relation with other people. It ain't just being able to do whatever you want. This is why I've been asking for men in the manosphere to quit disrespecting each other and start respecting each other, so that in the end, there's a certain set of freedoms that will come from cooperation and collaboration that can't be achieved on your own. That can't be done through single and solitary action. But you'll never know that unless you do it. You'll never be able to experience it unless you're part of a team. But I digress. It's me, she said, I'd rather clean and cook and work for our own man and family than working to make another man rich. Well, count you in the unicorns, your unicorn status. Because right now, most women feel like, okay, they've been taught that they need to be career oriented. And who has an interest in this? That's the point. Who has an interest in this? Whose interest are being served with that kind of cultural framing?
Because
Well, I agree with you, Ariana, that in point of fact, certain elements in the women's movement have gone too far. And
I mean, why is nobody saying this? There are certain elements that have gone too far. But nobody's putting it in check. Nobody. Especially not in the academy now. Nobody's saying anything. And then you got a whole bunch of men who are in the academy, and they speak with harsh tones. Like, why? These white people are having this conversation in the open. Why are these conversations not being had anymore? I think Polia is still having them. There's a woman named Christina Hoff Summers. She's having them. There's other women who are having these conversations, but not enough. I mean, to get somebody tied into the idea that they got to go to work when they don't have to or didn't have to convince damn near half the population that that's what they need to be doing, that took a lot of selling. Now, who benefits from that?
And there has been a kind of denigration of the role of woman and mother. I agree with that. But feminism at its best is all about options. When I was growing up in the 1950s, I was the only young girl who even dreamed of a career. It was assumed that you had to date, you had to marry. It was a horrible, repressive, totalitarian regime in America at that time. I think that at that point you were in your native Greece and not in America. But I remember...
Which was a very liberated country, yes.
Correct, and I'm often saying that we need a little more of the sort of Mediterranean woman's moxie into the Anglo-Saxon women's movement.
So, now notice, they're talking about themselves. And look, so this is about options, right? It's all about options. But here's the thing. How are men supposed to interpret what the options are? And how are they supposed to comport themselves related to these options? How? How? It's like men getting a million different signals.
Move to another subject for a minute. You have identified yourself as a Clinton Democrat. You were once in favor of the Clinton health care bill, and you are proud of that, or maybe less proud now than you were then, but nevertheless, you're public about it. The whole women's movement has been identified with this big government mentality. They do look to big government constantly to solve women's problems, despite the amazing failures of big government.
Bingo. She said a lot right there, but man, look, for 1 minute, not for 1 minute, do I believe that the big government that she's talking about was intended or designed to actually do anything to remedy the problems of the so-called underclass. I just don't believe it was. I don't believe it. I just don't believe it, man. I believe these people knew what they were doing. Because how can you take a mother's pension program, expand it for black, like to expand it to offer therapeutic or rehabilitative services for colored girls, but then you give white folks the suburbs. You take them, you subsidize their entire family life, but you only subsidize these women with children, and you tell them they're a problem. And the man can't be in the house. So you give these white folks brand new houses, and you tell black men, if they need help or they need subsidization, he can't even be in a state. So government can work for one group of people if they come in and they create a holistic solution. But if they don't want to, if they want to keep you on the dime, this is what they do. They keep you and give you just a little to keep you in, just to keep you hooked in, but not enough for you to branch out and go do your own thing. This is what that Great Society, Lyndon Baines Johnson welfare shit was.
A definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing again and again, expecting different results. I would say this is also a definition of the women's movement. Would you agree?
I'd agree with you that... I agree with you that there has been an excessive partisanship on the part of many women in the feminist movement. I myself am a Clinton Democrat. I look forward to voting for Clinton again. However, despite all... But I want George Stephanopoulos fired immediately. I want the whole White House staff fired. I do feel that there should be room in feminism for Republican women and for pro-life women as well. So I agree, but those have been errors of the leadership. Again, we cannot dismiss the entire women's movement because of errors of the leadership.
You have just demonstrated one of the main cornerstones of the women's movement, which is blame.
Whoa. There we go. It ain't just blame, but it's shame and fear-mongering and hysteria. And they sell that shit to women and they sell it to men. They sell tears and, terror to women. This is what they do. It's deplorable, man. To take one half of the human population and to make them a problem and to never problematize yourself and to never do self-introspection. That's problematic. Anyway, man, let me keep pushing.
Okay, his staff is at fault. Let's fire everybody at the White House. Clinton is okay. It's the same thing with the whole women's movement mentality is always that somebody else is to blame. It's never the women themselves. If it's date rape, it was never anything the woman did. And you yourself have argued that brilliantly. So I would really like...
Oh, let me rewind that. Let me go back.
Dismiss the entire women's movement because of errors of the leadership.
You have just demonstrated one of the main cornerstones of the women's movement, which is blame. Clinton is okay. His staff is at fault. Let's fire everybody at the White House. Clinton is okay. It's the same thing with the whole women's movement mentality is always that somebody else is to blame.
Bam. That's it right there, man. Somebody else is to blame. Never any blame directed towards themselves. Never any examination of the flaws that they have. It's always men's fault. And the question is, how long are men going to sit there and take that? This is the kind of shit that makes me furious. Not somebody talking on YouTube. This is the kind of shit that gets me upset and gets me vexed. This is the kind of shit that upsets me. Not somebody on YouTube that's another black man. It can even be a white man. There's some shit that's going to vex me about him. But the problem is, when do you ever do some introspection and see where you went wrong and how you fucked up and how you contributed to the problem? But see, that doesn't occur. The only thing that does occur is a constant finger pointing, the constant blaming, the constant shaming, the constant, I need protection, the constant, I've been abused. Like, how long will it go on before men say, man, fuck all that? I'm sick of hearing that. Before men say, you cried wolf one too many times. And it ain't all women that do this. All women are not doing this. But it's a whole hell of a lot of them that are. And a whole hell of a lot of them that understand how to game the system because they know that this system works to their advantage. Women can just be just as crafty and manipulative as any man. But we don't want to have that conversation. We never have that discussion. Let me keep pushing.
Never the women themselves. If it's date rape, it was never anything the woman did. And you...
Man, so Bill Cosby, it was all his fault, right? Mike Tyson, all his fault, right? All these other guys, man, It's all their fault. None of these women, I just said no. And he went like this big brutal man's about to kill me. It's fear-mongering, man. And it's like, well, how long will it go? This is the kind of shit that pisses me off. This is where my energies are. Not in fighting other guys.
You yourself have argued that brilliantly. So I would really like to ask you, right now to do something which maybe has never happened before on Firing Line, but you always like to make news, and this is to cross over to our side, because if nothing else, wouldn't you love to see the look on Michael Kinsley's face?
I have to tear up my program here.
Unfortunately, I cannot because the resolution says the women's movement has been a disaster, and I feel the women's movement, despite many errors, despite many excesses, is still an overwhelming success.
All right. On that note, if you're not going to cross over to the other side, you can start interrogating the other side.
Ariana, I could ask you the same thing. Why aren't you on this side? Because in your book on Picasso, you took a tack which I have been critical of the feminist leadership for taking. That is, you say that we cannot take Picasso seriously as a great artist because of the way he treated women in everyday life. So how, that position seems so doctrinaire feminist. How can you defend that and yet be on that side?
Well, I'm sure you haven't read my book, because that's not exactly what I said. What I said is much worse. I said that Picasso, although a great genius, was not one of the greatest artists who ever lived, not just because of the way he treated women in life and in art, but because of the way he denied the existence of something transcendent, because of the way that he was unable to give us a glimpse of the light through the darkness. And what I argued is that all great artists, whether Shakespeare or Mozart or anybody you would care to mention, even as they exposed the darkness, they were also able to give us a glimpse to the light. And that's really one of my problems with the women's movement as well, because it's a very secular movement. And I personally do not believe that there can be ultimately important, profound solutions to our problems without reconnecting with God, with the divine, and with the spiritual element in our lives.
But Ariana, there's an enormous part of the women's movement in America that is constantly talking about spiritual values. Unfortunately, it's a big mess intellectually. It's one of the areas of feminism that I'm trying to clean up. To me, it's often a big pile of manure. But there's a whole wing, a very strong wing associated with Mary Daly and so on. It is extraordinarily separatist. It involves often white witchcraft and worship of the goddess of nature. And there's a kind of
white witchcraft is not my idea of spirituality.
Well, there's a vision of God as she. Surely you realize that a lot of these reforms of the language of the Bible, which I totally oppose on historical grounds, is the rewriting of the language of the Bible so that there are gender-neutral phraseology and so on. That's coming from the spiritual wing of feminism. So I feel that you are blaming feminism for some. In fact, this is one of the most dominant wings within it.
Well, certainly not in my experience, and certainly not in the way that the women's movement is perceived. You yourself have described yourself as an atheist. I don't know whether you would still hold to that opinion. I know your opinions tend to change every week. But what matters here is, for me, the recognition that what our culture is missing more than anything is that element of the spiritual, because ultimately that's where our caring for each other comes from. When the founding fathers created this country, when the Constitution was first written, at the heart of it is that belief that there is a God, that there is something larger than ourselves, and that's what ultimately unites us. And I believe that without rediscovering that source of caring for others, without moving beyond our own self-centeredness, which dominates the women's movement, we'll never be able to solve the so-called women's problems, and even more importantly, we'll never be able to solve the dramatic problems that we're facing in our culture.
Well, Ariana, in saying that I change my ideas every week, you too have demonstrated you have read nothing of my work, since Sexual Personae is all about the history of religion and argues, in fact, that art began as religion. And everywhere in my work, I have argued, despite the fact that I'm an atheist, that the true multiculturalism, the true reform of education, would be one based on comparative religion, on all the great religions of the world.
Is that a question?
No, I'm just putting her in her place.
All right. Keep asking questions.
Right, wait, is she, I'm still asking her?
You're asking
Okay,
her,
all right. I would have to ask you, Ariana, what exactly is your direct or practical experience of the American women's movement that enables you to make these judgments of it?
I have lived in this country since 1980. Before that, for 12 years, I lived in England. I wrote a book on the women's movement. And after I wrote that book in 1973, I decided I would never read or write another word about the women's movement for a very long time. Now, this is giving me the opportunity to revisit the women's movement and to also affirm the wisdom of my decision not to speak or write about it for over 20 years. Because, frankly, I don't believe that that movement, when you actually examine what it achieved things that are really fundamentally important to women. When you look at the way that so many pathetic women like Gloria Steinem are wandering around unhappy, depressed, trying to look 20 when they're over 60, unable to accept that they're older, desperately trying to pretend they never wanted to marry a man who didn't want to marry them, desperately trying to pretend they never wanted a baby. You know, this is the kind of pathetic demonstration of the poster child of the feminist movement, still the same as it was 30 years ago.
Thank you very much. Dr. Time is up. You're free.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, so that's all I'm gonna show you for today, man. You know, I'll resume this some other time, but I thought it was important to show it to you because you wouldn't have watched it on your own, and then you can see that these debates that we're having at the current moment have already been had. They've already been discussed. But the funny thing is, we're not allowed to have these conversations at the current moment at all. We can't have them. We've been silenced. You try to have a conversation about this kind of stuff now? No. Shut up. Be quiet. You're a misogynist. We're going to cancel you. I mean, this is just what it is. And look, I just want to have the conversations, man. So, you know, what I want to do is I want to bring a feminist on my show, man, and have a conversation with her. And she's a cool person, man. You know, like, she has ideals that, you know, run counter to mine, but we can still talk and converse. This is what we need, to be able to talk and converse without resorting to insults. But if you want to go into the insult route, we can go there. But understand, I'm going to amplify the shit. I'm going to take it. You're going to be on 10. I'm going to take it to 10,000. That's just where I'm from, bruh. I'm from Kasu, bruh. We don't exchange words without some shit popping off. It just is what it is. I want us to dwell together in unity. I want us to actually do something. I want us to have our viewpoints out there in the world, instead of everybody drowning us out. That's what I desire. Now, I'm not the person to make all these decisions, whatever the case may be. I'm just one man. But I know what progress looks like, and I know what regress looks like. I know what talking looks like, and I know what action looks like. I know what organization looks like, and order looks like, and I know what chaos looks like. And you know it too. You get it too. But ultimately what I think is, you know, you've had a lot of women who have been sold the idea that freedom is associated with profession. And a lot of these women are unhappy, man. Who made it unfashionable to be a mother, to be respectful, to actually love and to care for a man? What's so wrong with that? Now they've been told that's pick me. That to be a wife is what you don't want to be, and that to be a hoe is a good thing. This is what they're teaching these kids now, but these little girls now. You don't have to be with one man. You can have much sex as you want. Don't be ashamed about it. You can spread yourself around. I wouldn't tell my son to do that either, because I know what trouble it leads to. I would say, hey, bruh, don't be out here trying to prove that you're a man through sex. Because what you're going to end up doing is you're going to get seduced into getting one of these little girls pregnant, and then she's going to end up having your ass trapped. So guard your grill, boy. Christopher Clipper, let me look at some of the chat notes. Christopher Clipper says, read and dissect Dworkin, his ideology of feminism. Andrea Dworkin's ideology of feminism. Okay, I will. At some point. What else? Let me see what's going on here. Mr. Excelsior says there's an inversion. I think there is an inversion. He says Larry Griffin says these women are out of proper order. Men are too, because they bow down to women's talking points. Look, there's nothing wrong with men and women having conversations with each other, I don't think, or having disagreements. Men and women have always had disagreements about a whole bunch of stuff and a whole bunch of issues. But for some reason, a lot of, the feminist movement has lionized the masculine and at the same time have denounced the very persons who are actually masculine. They've lionized it and despised it simultaneously. And I think that's because of their frustration of not being able to live up to what masculinity actually is. And so, because let's face it, man, like I showed you the video where you had women in the military trying to do what men in the military were doing. And, you could put a woman in Ranger school, and you can put them in SEAL school. You can put them in infantry divisions and, make sure that they have all that they need alongside of men to be the best that they can be. But men are just going to outperform them in that realm of activity, in that sphere of activity. And it doesn't mean that women are less valuable. It doesn't. But it just means in that domain, they aren't, able to perform as men do there. There may be other areas where they can perform better. That's it. Like, we don't have to be treated exactly the same for us to be mutually recognized. We don't have to be doing the same kinds of activities to actually be acknowledged. It's not necessary. So, Christopher Clipper also says, I had heated discussions when I was at a San Francisco State University. It was off the hook. Hardcore lesbian feminist. And, look, there are women who are mad at men. They're upset at men. They're mad as hell at men. But my thing is, you don't monopolize anger. When men get into a rage, you don't want that to happen. You don't want to see men in rage. There's something different between a man who's enraged and a woman who's enraged. But anyway, man, look, all I know is this, man. I hope that one day, black men in the manosphere will unite, and they will develop principles of action and actually work to fulfill them. That's my desire for the black manosphere, man. I want us to stop fucking with each other, trying to poke and provoke each other. It's bullshit. So I'll holler at y'all later, man. One.